Hey everyone, this is Bo. I'm currently working on swapping out some hollow core doors for solid doors in my house, and I figured I'd make a short video of how that process goes, just in case anyone else wants to do this in their own home. The main reason for doing this, is for noise reduction inside the rooms, and instead of buying a pre-hung door, taking out all the trim, all the casing, putting it in there and hanging it plumb, it just saves a little bit of money, a little bit of time. We've painted all our trim in the house white, and so now next up is to take down the hollow core doors and hang up these not solid core, but wood core doors with a pine veneer, and they will eventually get painted white as well. So let me show you what I have here on the bench. So you can see here on the bench I have the new door. So it's wood core, pine veneer. It's a pretty heavy door compared to the hollow core ones that we have in our house now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the existing door as a template to put on top of this pine door and lay out where the hinges are going to be mortised. I'm going to use the hollow core door to drill the hole for the knob or the latch, and then I'll use various templates and routers to route out the mortises, route out where the latch goes, and then we'll get this thing hung up. Okay, so what I'm going to do next here is I removed the knob and the latch from the existing hollow core door. I'm going to lay it on top of the new door. So a few things to keep in mind when doing this. Some new doors have a bevel on the edges where the hinge or the latch goes. That's important to understand to line the door up properly when you do that. So as the door shuts, that bevel doesn't interfere with the door shutting. So you have to line that up. You have to flip your new door on the bench before you set the old one on top of it, just to make sure you have that shutting right so it doesn't interfere with the jamb when you shut it. These new doors that I have, they do not have a bevel on the sides. They just have heavy rounds, no bevel. So it doesn't really matter which way I put the door on the bench when I start out. Another thing to keep in mind, putting the old door on top of the new door, I start with lining up and flushing up the hinge side first. I make sure that's flush from top to bottom, and then I work my way to the top and make sure that not all the doors are perfectly square, the existing ones or even the new ones. So what I ensure is that my new door doesn't extend farther up than the existing door. There's pretty tight clearances on the top of a door, so if you let that extend past it all, you might have trouble when you go to shut it and it catches the top of the jamb. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'll flush up this side, get the top aligned, and then I'll clamp this in place and use this as my template. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to mark out where the hinges are. So I'm lining up the square with the side of the hinge, and I'm gonna take my marking knife and mark the side of this hinge. Do the same on the other side. So I got that one marked, and I'm just gonna move my way down. All right, so I have the hinges laid out. I'll show you what template and what tool I use to do that on the new door. But before we unclamp the old door from the new door, I want to drill the hole for the knob. And that's pretty easy because the existing door is going to be my template. I'm getting stuck on something here. There we go. All right, and so I have a drill here. Got a hole saw. It is a 2 1/8 hole saw that I'm going to use to drill the hole for the latch. And so what I have here is just a scrap block of wood that I'm going to clamp to the underside to prevent tear out. You could flip it over, I suppose. I wanted to do that in the very first one I've done, but it's kind of tough to flip it over. So, all right, and here we go. All right, and there's our hole. All right, so with that, with the knob or the hole for the knob latch drilled through, it's now time to. I'm going to mark the lines where the latch go here on the handle side. There's a fit or a shallow mortise that mounts the latch. So I'm just going to use marking knife and a square just to lay that out here before I unmount the old door from the new door. And I just marked the top and then the bottom edge of this the latch mortise. I'll mark the I guess it'd be the inside and the outside of the door here after I unmount the hollow core door. Get all this stuff out of the way. All right, so I have the door up on my bench here in the leg vise. You don't need a bench with a leg vise to do this. You can use a couple of sawhorses and clamp it to the side of your sawhorses, or you can use two little L-shaped things on the floor, put the door in the middle and clamp them two together to keep the door from rocking side to side. So what I have here, it's kind of hard to see, but I have my two knife lines from the where the mortise goes. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the center of the door and then the center point between my two knife marks to get the center line of the latch. All right, so what I have in a cordless drill is a 7/8 inch hole saw bit. And I'm just going to drill this down until I break out the bottom end of the knob hole here. There we go. All right, so what you saw me messing with in the previous video here was mortising this latch. The previous doors I've just done it freehand with a router with a straight bit in the palm router here. I decided to give this template a try from Porter Cable just to make it quicker, more accurate, make those corners a little bit nicer. I can't say I'm in love with this template. It's all plastic and it kind of gets chewed up by the router, even though it's got a bearing guiding it. So I'm not sure if I'm setting it up wrong or if it's just not that great of a template. But and it doesn't really seem to center it on the door either. So I don't know what I did here, but I'll probably go back just to freehanding the rest of the latches. All right, so I have the door with the hinge side facing up now, since I'm done with the latch side, and I'm ready to start routing out the mortises for the hinges. A couple notes before I get started here. You have to note on the door which side the pins for the hinges go through. So and it should always face you using I got this, I think it's a Miles Craft jig. It works. I've used it on probably, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 doors now. It works really well. It's pretty easy to use, but it requires you to set it on the door and butt it up against this edge towards me, and the radii, whatever, are on this side of the door. So that means that the pins can't go on this side. The pins are going to go on this side towards me. So that's how I have the door set up here, is the pin side towards me. Couple things to note with the jig. It's got a couple holes here for screws or nails to hold it in place while you're routing. I use screws. So what I do is I have these pieces of tape that kind of hold it in place, kind of force it down, hold it in place just for a sec while I get a drill and screws and screw that in place. My knife lines that I made previously, those are what align this jig up and down on the door. So the bit has a larger bearing that does cutting diameter. So as long as you keep the spacing on each side of your knife line the same on the jig, your mortises will line up. One thing I've done with varied success is I've actually set a small scribes tool to the same offset as the bearing diameter and the cutting diameter. That helps. Just once it's just an added visual to make sure that you've lined it up properly. You could also use probably just a ruler and just lay this out. So got the jig here. I have a router set up with the bit that came with this kit, which somehow I still had managed to keep, which is pretty impressive. And I got the depth already set since I've done a few doors already. So I'm gonna go ahead, mount the jig along the door, and route the 3 hinges, and then we'll be done with routing. All right, so after routing the hinge mortises, I'm ready to drill and install the hinges on the door. The only really critical thing here, make sure the top of the hinge, the pin, is facing up, and then I use a self-centering VIX bit to make sure that my holes are centered within the holes in the hinge. There it is. All right, so here we are up in the room. First thing I'm going to do, I took out there's some hinges on here, but I need to go back through and cut out some of the excess paint that's in the trim. Since we painted these with a brush and roller, there's some little bit of paint still inside these mortises, so I'm just going to clean that out with a razor blade. And then we'll mount the hinge leaves to the jamb. And find my... And so now you get to watch me struggle getting this door lined up. All right, so I have the off camera. I just mounted the latch, which 2 small holes, and screw it in, and then mount the handle, and then the strike plate. There's already mortised in the jamb because it's an existing jamb, and yeah, just screw it together, and there we go. It's a little close. I'll say it's a little close up here on this side. I might have to get a block plane to that and just shade that off a little bit. Because when the paint gets built up on there, it might not be enough space for it to close. So I'm just going to mark that from where to where. Let's see. Probably from here and leave myself a little note for future bow. All right, and that does it. Thanks for watching. Kind of a long video, a lot of details, a lot of me talking. But that's how you convert a hollow core door to a wood door using the existing jamb.